Which food has the smallest window between great and terrible? Pizza. It starts off being too hot so you burn your gums on the molten cheese that's sticking in your mouth. Next piece is great, perfect temp. That's what you live for and imagine pizza to be. The next one is already too cold and doesn't taste as good. The cheese is already a rubbery paste. Then you continue eating the rest of your soggy cold ass pizza that gets worse every second. It leaves you unsatisfied every time. If you're talking time window, lamb office bit. It's absolutely delicious for like 30 minutes, but once the fat starts to congeal it's an absolutely different thing and so much worse. Weirdly enough I like it better the next day than, say, 3 hours after it comes off, but I can't think of a food that needs to be eaten fresh more than that. Those plums you get from the grocery store. For like 1.5 days a year, they are the most amazing thing you ever did eat. All the rest of the year they're this hard flavorless rock-like fruit suitable only for buying and letting it rot so you can throw something at bad politicians. Calamari. When it's fresh and cooked well, it's really great. But most of the time, it's overcooked, and the experience is like chewing on the rubber tires from toy cars. It must be difficult to get it just right. I've stopped ordering it to avoid expensive disappointment. Fresh fish in the fridge. I have gotten into fishing recently and when I bring home a catch I try to cook it that day or at the latest, the next day. I have gone to cook one a few days after and it smelled a bit so gave it to the chicks. Frog legs. Seriously. If they are seasoned right, they have an amazing flavor all their own. But just a little too much or a little salt and pepper and they end up tasting like dry dark meat chicken fried in oil alongside cheap fish. Brussels sprouts. Delicious or disgusting? I used to think they were all bad, but I have had them cooked where I couldn't stop eating them because they were so good. 95 have been trash and I'm not good at cooking them either. Lasagna. Good lasagna is godlike food. Bad lasagna is borderline inedible slop, and there is basically nothing in between those two. I've either had good or bad. I've never had an okay lasagna. Pears off my mother's pear tree. Checked them in the morning before work, still hard as a stone. Went to grab one for dessert, one was fuzzy and the other was unpleasantly squishy. Ribs. They are one of my favorite foods but it's always a risk getting them when I'm at a restaurant because the difference between a good rack and a bad one is massive. From what I heard, drinking cow's blood is absolutely terrible when it's fresh but you'd better get it down before you're swallowing scabs. Steak. It's okay if it's a little less than medium rare but once you start the other direction it's a tough thing to get through. The Cheddar Bay biscuits at Red Lobster. They're amazing when they first get to your table and inedible within 15 minutes. Scallops. Rubbery when they're undercooked, fantastic when they're cooked properly, hockey pucks when they're overcooked. My vote would be for mozzarella sticks. It's a small window between lava and this is cheese string with breading. Domino's pizza. When it's hot and fresh. Amazing. Once it starts to cool a little bit it gets cold. Pure cardboard. Bacon. Has like a 10 seconds window to get it off the griddle. Too soon it's rubbery, too late it's dry and crunchy. Shrimp. Depending how it's made I'll really like it or really dislike it. I take a risk anytime I order it. Venison is noted for having a very fine line between being magnificent and being ultra gamey shoe leather. Eggplant. Even the slightest bit undercooked and it is absolutely disgusting. Yet so good when cooked well. Watermelon. It could be a little unripe and it would taste like shit, but it's delicious if it's ripe enough. Avocados. 1 minute they're not ripe, 10 minutes later they're ripe, 10 minutes after that they're rotten. Bread once it even starts feeling just a little bit stale it's completely inedible without toasting. My experience in the UK is Chinese food. It's either awesome to awful with almost no middle ground. Anything with that organic brand honey sriracha seasoning. 1 dash too many and my lips are burning. Absolutely mac and cheese. There are so many possible consistencies and most of them are wrong. Kangaroo meat. Cooked perfectly it is godly. 5 seconds too much and it's worse than camel jerky. Vegemite. I'm from Australia and can't stand this stuff but people still call it amusing. Avocado. One day it's harder than a rock. The next. It's an orgasm in your mouth. Sushi. The difference between disgusting sushi and amazing sushi is incredibly tight. Sushi. There's always great sushi. But when it's terrible, it's, well, horrible. Papaya when perfectly ripe it's sweet, earthy and delicious. Or it's cat piss. Soy sauce. A couple of drops between this needs to be saltier and inedible. French toast. If you take a step towards undercooking them they're ass. Sushi. And great sushi is terrible in less than an hour after it's made. McDonald's the full menu, the fries have the smallest window. Pufferfish. If prepared incorrectly, it can easily kill you. Whipped cream. Whip it too long and it turns into butter. A steak, overcook it by a minute and it becomes inedible. Pork chops. Fine line between succulent and shoe leather. Cilantro. You either like it or loathe it, no in-betweens.